do believe, I mean, obviously on the outside, the best I can do is based on information I'm seeing out there, but I've always told this to the guys I travel with and guys I know out there. Our sport, it requires, at the level that you fish at, it requires like the perfect storm to come together. And that's, in my opinion, it's because of that competition level now is so freaking high. And so, the gaps from first to 100th place, man, is just every year is just getting smaller and smaller. You look at my reasoning for saying this, that it takes that perfect storm to win, is if we look at the GOAT, okay, competitive tournament angler, I don't think there's much debate, KVD. He's been fishing professionally for 34 years now, 35, something like that. It's been tough. Yeah, been tough to see here, but you look at of his major wins that he's made, I want to say it's 29. So you've been fishing 35 years, you're the GOAT in a sport, and you have 29 wins. What does that tell you of what it takes, in this sport to actually get a win? It's so, I mean, do you feel that at the pro level that, man, everything's going to have to line up right and take it?
Yeah, I absolutely do. In my opinion, the best thing you can do is give yourself the shot to be up there. Meaning, I can't necessarily control my fish weighing a half pound bigger than the guy, who ends up winning the tournament. But if you consistently put yourself around that caliber of fish and you have consistency where you're continuously cashing checks, at some point you'll get your shot at the win. And at that point, there is, whether you want to agree or disagree, there is a lot of luck in our sport. And I don't consider it luck like it's not luck like, okay, I'm going to go out there and randomly catch fish. Right. Because that's the skill, is putting yourself around the fish and figuring out where the fish are at. Most good anglers can catch fish if you put them around the fish. Finding the fish is the hard part. But when it comes to truly winning an event, I mean, I can use the sharpest hooks in the world, but I can't put my hook in the fish's mouth and make sure it's in the hardest part of the fish's mouth every time. I mean, you skin hook a fish, they come up and jump and it comes off. I didn't do, you probably didn't do anything wrong. It's just what happens.
Sure.
And, when it comes to winning an event, that's kind of what it is. I mean, there are times that I've lost fish or broken a fish off where it was my fault. But there's times where I probably couldn't have done anything different. And it just was a matter of the hook being not in a good place and the fish won the battle. I mean, that's what happens.
Well, and there's so many variables, we can only control what we can control. And there's so many variables that this is where I say the luck piece does play a major factor. Is, let's say you and I both go out to a lake and we spend our time and we practice. I mean, what's the likelihood that, I know an area that I want to start in for the day one? I'd like to be in this area. Conditions look good, so I'm going to start there. But you drew a better boat draw than I did. And you had the same idea. You go and all of a sudden now you're on the, this point that I knew, was should be looking. There's nothing that you can do to control that or change that. I mean, there's a boat draw factor in there. There's, there is a portion in there then. So that's why I always say that perfect storm. This competition thing leads me to one other topic I wanted to get your opinion on. And this was, you've mentioned him before. I do like watching his content. I don't always agree with him, but I think I can, and I've never met him personally, but I already can tell I respect the guy and love his content. Andrew Upshaw. He had done a little series on a comparison piece between MLF and bass, just talking about the two trails and things of that nature, and in a really, really good way. But there was one section that he got on that I understood why he felt the way he felt, but I disagreed with him 100%. And this is why. He spoke about comparing the Bass series of Bass Elites, the Bass Opens, and then he spoke about on the MLF side where he compared the Bass Pro Tour to the Bass Elites. And then he put the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit equated to the Opens. And that is where I believe the perspective, and he had, big challenges with this, which obviously you would. If you try to compare the Tackle Warehouse to the Bass Opens, to me, in my personal opinion, that's apples and oranges. In the days of what we've all been brought up in the sport, Bass has kind of set the measure to that until the most recent years. FLW did a fantastic job of the grassroots stuff, and then providing the old saying. I read an article once that the old saying was in pro bass fishing: if you wanted to make money, go fish the FLW. If you wanted to make a name for yourself, go fish bass, type thing. And that's the way it seemed to lay out. But in my opinion, the way I see this new landscape, you have the BFL, which is the regional stuff. Nobody else really can compete with the MLF on that, former FLW. They offer more avenues for guys at a real cheap price to go out there and compete against, in like the Ozark stuff. I can tell you, we're going against 200 boat fields, man. They get busy down there, and we get Watson, Scanlon, those guys coming in, and they jump in, some of these BFLs because it's a good field. But then you go to the AAA piece, in my opinion, you got your Toyota Series on the MLF side. And that is what I equate the Bass Opens to. The next piece up, you got your Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit and you got your Bass Elites. In my view, the Bass Pro Tour represents kind of like the all-star game, man. It's like the best of the best move up to that. And to me, that's where you can start to see. I still agree with Andrew that there are issues there, from the angler side that continue to need to be addressed to make these things more financially stable. But I wanted to ask you, in your opinion, in that perspective of how you see the competition levels, how does that play out in your mind?
Well, I guess I would start the conversation off by saying, like, what you just described is kind of what the problem is. You've got a perception. Mm-hmm. Right or wrong. Right. Andrew's got a perception, right or wrong. You talk to 10 different people and everyone's got a different response on it. And that's the biggest issue we have right now with what's occurring in the sport, because as an angler that's fishing the pro circuit, I've seen my personal stock price drop in marketability because there are some companies out there now that do not consider me a professional level circuit. We are a AAA circuit. In my personal opinion, and this is one of the things I struggle with, when trying to decide what to fish and where to go. I mean, there, in my opinion, there's no question that the pro circuit is above the opens. I mean, it really, for me, the sport, it's a business. Tournaments are a business. And I look at it from a financial standpoint. So where can I support my family? Where can I go do it? The opens, I don't know if anyone would argue this, but the opens truly are the worst investment an angler can make in all of fishing. Like, I can't be more clear about that. I mean, that is one of the things that's so wrong with the sport right now, is the fact that there are so many people willing to fish the opens knowing that they're going to lose money. And when I say money, I mean, if you fish 3 tournaments, 1 division, and you don't cash a check, which is a very realistic chance because they only pay, it's roughly 1 out of 6 guys, you're looking at potentially losing $10,000 for the year.
Yep.
From a business standpoint, it's phenomenal for Bass at this point because they can take, I think the opens pay roughly 65% payback. I mean,
that's rough.
If you go fish a charity event, there will be some anglers that are complaining if it's an 80% payback. And 20% of that payout went to helping somebody, right? Right. People have an issue with this. In this case, it's not going to anybody except the Bassmaster Elite Series to help pay their payouts. But guys are okay with that, and they're willing to do it because it gives them the shot of living their dream out as being a Bassmaster Elite Series pro. I get that. If you want to get somewhere and somebody's going to make you jump through hoops, you have the decision of not fishing or jumping through hoops. Yep. And, at this point, I've heard there's something like 400 guys who are signed up to fish all the open series, which is almost double what even get into the tournament. So there's demand to do it. Yep. It's kind of crazy, in my opinion, that there's that type of demand with the payouts. But for me, when I go and I look, at the pro circuit payouts, if you compare payouts strictly the pro circuit payouts are not much worse than the Bassmaster Elite Series payouts.
Right.
Like, I mean, they really are almost on a par. They pay half the field. We pay a third of the field. I mean, but you're talking similar sized payouts. The difference is they are guaranteed to get money back for, finishing, I think, in last place. They may be updating that this year, but in the past, that's what it's been. So, they may have $40,000 in entry fees, but the most they can lose is 20. Well, I don't have that. I can't come in last place and get $2,000. So,
right.
If I fish all 6 tournaments, I'm out $35,000 if I don't cash a check. But having said that, I mean, we're fishing for $100,000. The top 50 places are $10,000 checks. Like, there's no question, in my opinion, that the payouts are a professional level circuit. I mean, that to me is not even an arguable point.
Right.
As an angler, as much as I think that it's great to be a Bassmaster Elite Series pro because it makes you more marketable, as a tournament angler, in my opinion, it's like you're telling me, wait, I can fish what I believe is a professional level circuit, do decent, make some money doing that, and then have the shot at qualifying to move up to another level where they basically have no entry fees. You have 9 tournaments with like 3 big cups. I mean, and I can then fish the pro circuit as well if I really want to add another 6 high dollar tournaments with a big championship. Like, there's really not any question, in my opinion, that that's the route to go if you want to do it from a tournament standpoint. If you have great marketability and you can go to the Elite Series and make it there, and you probably can make more sponsor dollars from being over there. So they're both good places to be if you can be at the top level of both levels. But I mean, I would sit here and argue that the Toyotas are a much better investment than the Open Series because you have the ability to it's easier to qualify to move up to the pro circuit, but at the same time, their payouts are much better than the Opens, and you have a $200,000 no entry fee championship. Well, maybe entry fee this year, I don't remember, but you still have a shot at fishing for $200,000.
Grand. Well, and I can appreciate, from obviously your standpoint, I'm going to say something that I can say and get away with for sure without ruffling, and if I ruffle feathers, who cares? Because I'm a nobody. But to me, the deciding factor, I'll be straightforward and honest, was when I look at the competition in sports, which I am not a rookie with, you base your accomplishments based off of that which you have competed against. When you look at, who am I going against? When I look through the field of career accomplishments, it is hands down just no problem for me to say that I look at the level of competition at the pro circuit level and at the Bass Elite, and I see extremely comparable there. It's right across the board, in my opinion. While our sport being divided did bring some negatives, one of the cool things that it actually did bring about was opportunity. I mean, because let's face it, had those 80 guys not moved from Bass and FLW up to the BPT, there's guys we probably still wouldn't be hearing from right now because there's only so many dollars and only so many slots out there. So, it seems again like that double-edged sword, but I believe wholeheartedly in the fact that when you look at the rosters out there, the elites to the pro tour, I personally think that's apples and apples right there, across the board. But your point about how I'm looking at it one way and there's so many other different, interpretations of it. Yeah, that does hurt us. I mean, for sure. And so hopefully things, as time goes on, hopefully things get ironed out so that guys like you can continue to roll and your success gets a chance to pay off. Well, thank you, Matt, for being agreeing to answer. I know sometimes those things can be goofy questions or whatever, and we always want to make sure and not don't upset that which keeps our electricity on.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm really not sitting here saying I don't have any filters on right now. I mean, if you would ask me about Bass or MLF, I would let you know that there's a lot of issues going on with both standpoints. I mean, everyone, we needed to work for everybody. And I recognize that the organizations are a business, but the anglers are a business as well. And we need to do what's best for ourselves. And I'm sure if you talk to some of the MLF brass, they'd let you know that I'm constantly giving them my 2 cents. I mean,
That's awesome.
It's a world where, you got to fight for what you want. And, I do think that the pro circuit is a very good place to be, but it's not, you need to be at the next level, whether that's the elites or the Bass Pro Tour. You're better off there as an angler. That's where you want to be. One of those two places.
Right. And you actually you qualified for one of the stages last year and had a chance to fish that format, right? Was that stage 7?
Yeah, technically, in my opinion, I qualified for the BPT tour this year because 2 years ago, we went to a 2-year average in points. Right. And last year I finished tied for 10th. And then before this season, they changed it to 2021 points or a 2-year average, which ended up bumping me down. I would have been, if we had stuck with just the 2-year average, I would have finished 7th or 8th in points and I would have qualified for the BPT. So I'm kind of like, that's one of the things that, happens, I guess, that you'd rather not. But yeah, no, so I technically, in my opinion, qualified for that, but I did fish my second place finish at the St. Lawrence River qualified me to fish the Detroit River BPT event.
Nice. What was that? So just your feel going through that here, not to burn up your entire day, but the catch, weigh, release format. A lot of talk about it. I've never had an opportunity to compete with that. I've put myself through that, just, doing a mock, practice type thing, and just to see what I personally would love the opportunity to compete like that. But what was that like coming from 5 big fish piece to go into a catch, weigh, release? Was it life-changing or, how's that affect you?
I've got a lot of different opinions on it. As a conservationist, it's fantastic.
Yep.
I mean, I think you couldn't do anything better for the fish. As a contestant, I think it's probably the most exciting format you can fish because of the fact where you're at and whether you're sinking or falling or rising. I mean, it's constant. You talk about being in a stressful situation. That's it, because you cannot sit back. You catch one, you got to have that mindset. I need another one, because within 5 minutes, you feel like you just moved right back to where you were. But I have, I've been fortunate enough to fish that format a couple of times. So going to Detroit really was not a change. I knew what I was getting into. Our championship last year for the pro circuit on Sturgeon Bay, we did that format. Then we've got a regional circuit here called Classic Bass that mostly Minnesota, but they have I think it's 40 boats this year. It might be 50 boats,
right?
Where they do that format as well. And I've participated in some of those tournaments, and it's been I'm really thankful that I fished those and had some experience, because it really was not, a big change for me to get into, but it's a extremely fun format as an angler. Like I don't know that most anglers recognize how much more stressful, and it makes you feel like you're in a true race, versus a normal 5-fish tournament. The issue that I see with it is, I think that, and this is one of the issues that the BPT has had, is how do you relay that energy and excitement from the anglers to the fans? Because as an angler, if I'm sitting in, around the cut line, I'm pretty, concerned about what's going on. Or if it's a check line, it's like, I want to get inside the check line. Well, the fans aren't sitting at home going, I hope Matt gets into the check range. Like, they probably don't even know what the check cuts are. So, from that standpoint, I think there probably needs to be a few changes. And I think they're continuing to tweak some things. I don't know if the tournaments maybe are too long with 6 days or what, but, as a fan, you sit back and watch it and go, well, Jacob Wheeler's in first by, 40 pounds and it's day one. Okay. He's solidly inside of the top 20 at that point. So it's not that big of there's no reason to watch. You're not watching to see who wins the day, really. So it's, there's some things that they need to figure out.
Sure.
Because it really is, an angler is the most exciting format, I think, that's out there. You don't you don't go to your starting spot, catch 5 big fish, and go, you know what, I'm gonna go fish new water all day, and lay back. It's a stressful format.
So a few years ago, I had an opportunity to go up to All Terrain Tackle up in Rogers, Minnesota, up there for a pro staff event, and had the honor and privilege to sit at the table with Austin Felix and Adrian Avina and Chad Grigsby, and all those guys were. I think Grigsby was there, but then a lot of the local pros, and so forth. And with Adrian being there, and this was probably 2019, so it was like the first year, I want to say, of the. No, it was right before the big buyout. Yeah, so it would have been 2019 there. And we're sitting there, we're eating our Chipotle, and the conversation come up about the Dink Fest, and Adrian's just cool as a cucumber response to this just stuck with me in my head. He's such a relaxed, just chill guy anyway to begin with. But his response was, I can see how you'd think that, but I want you to think about this. And he gave this a similar example to what you just said. He said, in a 5 big fish tournament, how many times have you gone out there and, you got 8 hours, you're on the water, and for the first 7.5, you got 1 in the boat. Things have just not gone right. And then in that last 15, 20-minute window, bang, you land on a school of them, you hammer them up, and you go back, you weigh in 16 pounds, and man, you're a hero for the day. People are like, man, this guy's been on them all day. He says, you try to do that in this format? He goes, dude, they're not even going to talk to you. He said, when you get on fish with this catch, weigh, release, you got to stay on them all day. Be them, smaller weight or 3 or 4 pounders. You just have to constantly stay on there. Cause you look at that field and guys like yourself that you're going up against, good Lord. There's going to be a relentless assault on these fish all day. So yeah, that stress piece, I can tell you from being associated around competitive angling, when I watch the events that I DVR constantly, my anxiety goes through the roof. I'm just like, oh my God, I almost not sure I want to know what's going on, at that point. So.
Well, yeah. It is really, I will say, when they have an event where on the final day, you've got a handful of guys all within 1 fish away, like that is the best bass fishing TV that can be out there, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And there is a place for it in the sport. I have no doubt at all. One of the things I love about it is I feel like they have the ability to change the rules per tournament. If they wanted to say, okay, at this event, we're going to do total weight, and the next one they want to do catch, weigh, release best 5, they could do that if they want to do that. And
absolutely.
I think you may see that in the future. That's my own opinion. Nobody's told me anything, but I think they have that ability to do it. I think you could see special events come up, or maybe at cups where they just do, we're doing 1 pound spots, 2 pound largemouth, and 3 pound smallmouth. They really can chop it up however they feel fit, which I think is kind of neat, because I think it mixes things up a little bit. I know some people may say they just want the same old format of 5 fish, but it's just different. It's like, if you look at the bass where you weigh it in, they want there to be drama for the weigh-in, for people to watch the weigh-in. Mm-hmm. I equate to a BPT event to watching a football game. For me, I'll watch the football game until the very end. I know who won. I turn it off. I don't need to watch post game. I know the diehard fans will, but I don't really want to watch the post game. I saw who won. I'm done. I'm going to go do what I want to do. So they're different. They're different formats. There's a place for both in the sport.
I think on that conservation tip is one of the biggest pieces. While, there's so many more high school and college teams that are out there now, that if we're going to leave something behind for these guys, I think at some point or another, Mother Nature, she's not infinite, man. It's these resources do get burned up. I think we've all seen it. I saw it over the course of the 10 years that I was up in Minnesota. I watched those metro lakes just get hammered on. And there's no less of a 7-day week. There's no less than 4 to 5 tournaments on some of these major lakes every week. You got your Tuesday nighters, you got your, your greenhorn, you got your, advanced greenhorn. Man, these fisheries take a pounding. And, it's no matter how we want to paint it, there's a mortality factor that kicks in. And I think at some point or another, what the fan wants, if it's bad for the fish, we have to kind of allow conservation to kind of lean. That's just my personal opinion. I think it needs to, lean in there. But, well, that's awesome stuff. Listen, Matt, you have been so generous with your time here. We have taken this thing's probably going to get broken down into 2 or 3 sections here for sure. Cool. But I can't thank you enough, man, for taking the time to come on here. Our whole objective is just to continue to, raise awareness for our nonprofits, but at the same time, we want to pay homage to our roots, man, which is in fishing, and guys like you, experts like you in the field out here. I can't explain to you how much this means, man, to come on here and help us out with this. Anything we can do to help you in the future, please consider us an asset out here. We're here for you, for your sponsors, anything we can do out there to raise awareness on that side. We'll be glad to do, man.
Well, I appreciate it very much. And I love sitting here talking fishing with people. And if there's anything you guys need from me in the future, feel free to reach out as well.
I will, man. We'll put you on the list next time we're, up in that neck of the woods. Like I said, I'll be coming up to Winneconne up there for sure. You'll probably be out on the road and about the same time. It's like in June or whatever. But we'll definitely try to reach out. We'll try to put highlights of your season there. We'll keep tabs on you.
Sounds good.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much. Merry Christmas to you and your family. Happy holidays. And we're looking forward to the 2022 season.
Sounds good. Merry Christmas to you guys as well.